Welcome back to the Outer Rim, where we explore the untold depths of the Star Wars galaxy. Today we journey into the mind of Boba Fett, the hardened bounty hunter who survived the unimaginable and redefined himself on the sands of Tatooine. But what lies behind that stoic armor and the infamous reputation? As we'll see, Boba Fett's vision quest with the Tuskens reveals a path that may lead him somewhere few would expect, to a place as Mandalore, the leader of the Mandalorian people. Yes, I still believe this, even if it's a long shot. If Star Wars is your thing, go on and hit that subscribe button to join this growing channel that only talks about the greatest franchise ever created. Boba Fett's vision was more than just a hallucination in the desert. It was a reckoning, a confrontation with his own past fears and future. The vision came as Boba lay between life and death, haunted by isolation and forced to face his greatest setbacks. The vision begins with the sensation of abandonment, a child standing alone on Kamino watching his father, Jango Fett, fly off into the galaxy never to return. This child felt the pain of loss, the ache of betrayal. His father was everything he knew, the one constant in his life, and then, like a vapor, he was gone. And with him went Boba Fett's sense of belonging, his anchor to the galaxy. As the vision unfolds, we see Boba's journey through isolation, years spent in the shadow of his father's legacy, operating alone, surviving only by his wits and reputation and great skill. But beneath his hardened exterior lies the boy who never fully healed, who carried the weight of his father's death as chains wrapped around his soul. The sarlac, which almost claimed him, becomes the perfect metaphor for these chains. It's a beast that swallows everything in darkness, imprisoning its prey in eternal bondage. Yet just as Boba's past holds him captive, binding him in memories of a life defined by violence and vengeance. When Boba Fett escapes the sarlac, he emerges as a man reborn, but one who's been stripped of his armor, his identity. Surviving the sarlac was a second chance, and in the vision, Boba begins to realize that he was not meant to continue this journey alone, that great skill and luck would only take him so far. Next time, the outcome might not be in his favor. With the Tuskens, Boba finds something he has long missed, community, but he also learns of his need to break free from the past. In the rituals and traditions, Boba Fett sees an ancient resilience, a reminder that strength doesn't come from armor or reputation, but from unity and purpose. The Tuskens embody a strength forged through a connection to each other and their heritage. And for Boba Fett, this is a revelation, an echo of what could become. In this moment, Boba Fett's journey shifts. He realizes that breaking free from the chains of his past means accepting a new purpose. And here is where we start to see glimmers of his potential to lead. Boba Fett has never considered himself a Mandalorian. He was a clone born not of Mandalore, but of Kamino. Yet Mandalorians are a people bound not by blood, but by creed. They are forced in the crucible of trial and hardship, and Boba Fett's life is a testament to both. Throughout the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, we see hints that he may be destined to claim a higher purpose among the Mandalorians. He may not wear the traditional Beskar armor with pride in the way others do, but his armor represents something else, a legacy that could bridge the past and the future for the Mandalorian people. Imagine Boba Fett, once an orphan, cast adrift in the galaxy, becoming the Mandalore, a leader not because he claims to be a Mandalorian, but because he has lived through trials that few can understand. Like the Tuskens, Mandalorians know the pain of exile and struggle, and like the Tuskens, they are a people who endure, who find strength in their bonds with one another and their history. It's a lot like the story of King Arthur in the film Excalibur. An orphaned boy left to his own devices, then grows up to lead, albeit Arthur wasn't 60 years old when he drew the sword from the stone, but changes need to be made, I guess. As Boba's vision ends, he understands that to continue alone as he once did is to invite inevitable destruction. He got lucky escaping the sarlac. but there may not be a second escape if he doesn't evolve. His past, the chains of vengeance, the solitude he once thought was strength, they only weigh him down. To break free, he must embrace his potential for something more. And what would it mean if Boba Fett accepted his heritage, stepping into the role of Mandalore? It would mean a leader shaped not by tradition but by experience, a warrior who knows the cost of survival and values community above all else. In this, he would be a Mandalore unlike any other, a bridge between the scattered Mandalorian clans and a unifier for a people who have lost their way. Boba Fett's journey, born out of tragedy and rebirth on the sands of Tatooine, may ultimately lead him to the heart of Mandalorian culture. To accept his destiny would be to finally break the chains of his past and create a future for himself, one that holds promise, not for him, but for all Mandalorians. If Boba Fett does claim the mantle of Mandalore, his journey would come full circle, from the son of a man who once wore Mandalorian armor to the reluctant heir of a broken legacy, and finally to the leader who could unite the Mandalorians once more. But this would not be an easy path. Accepting such a role would mean reconciling the parts of himself he has long kept separate. The legacy of his father, the identity he crafted as a lone bounty hunter, and the wisdom he gained from the Tuskens. Each of these elements would need to come together for him to lead a people scattered and divided. But perhaps the biggest question is not whether Boba Fett can lead, but whether he would even want to. Boba has lived a life of autonomy, prizing freedom above all else, walking his own path. To lead the Mandalorians would mean setting aside that freedom, sacrificing his own desires for the sake of others, a challenge that he may struggle to accept. However, if his time with the Tuskens taught him anything, it's that sometimes sacrifice can yield something greater than independence. It can create a bond, a family, a purpose. For years, Boba Fett has carried the burden of being Jango Fett's son, feeling the weight of expectations he never fully embraced. Jango's legacy haunted him, a father taken too soon, leaving a shadow Boba Fett could never quite escape. But to accept the role of Mandalore would allow him to reshape that legacy, to honor his father's memory not through vengeance or violence, but through leadership and unity. If you're asking yourself, or me for that matter, where's the proof that any of this is even possible? I've made several videos on it in the past, and I'll leave a link at the end of this video for one of them. If Boba were to stand as Mandalore, he would bring a unique perspective. Unlike many of the Mandalorian warriors before him, Boba has seen the galaxy from every angle, as a hunter, a mercenary, and now as a leader of the Tuskens on Tatooine. He understands the perspectives of both the oppressed and the powerful, and he knows what it's like to live with nothing, fighting for survival every step of the way. This depth of experience could be exactly what the Mandalorian people need, a leader who can bridge divides, not through brute strength, but through an understanding and resilience. And in this, we see the potential for Boba Fett to bring together the various factions of the Mandalorians, reuniting them under one banner just as Bo-Katan did. But I feel like they wanted to complete her story before moving forward with Boba Fett. Din Djarin, Bo-Katan Kryze, the Children of the Watch, each faction holds its own version of Mandalorian culture. But Boba Fett, the outsider, could be the one to bring them all together, not as a traditional Mandalorian, but as a survivor whose life embodies the very resilience the Mandalorians need to thrive once more. What would this future look like for the Mandalorians? It could mean reclaiming their homeworld of Mandalore, just as they did with Bo-Katan Kryze, but as we've seen, Bo-Katan has lost in the past, and she possibly could again. This would be uniting under a new vision for what it means to be a Mandalorian. With Boba as their leader, they would not be defined solely by their warrior culture or adherence to ancient codes, but by a shared resilience, a willingness to adapt, and a commitment to protect their own. That's to say, if Boba Fett doesn't take the creed. Boba Fett's leadership could signal a shift, a new chapter where the Mandalorians are not only survivors, but builders of a legacy that transcends their warrior past, although keeping that intact. Yet even as Boba Fett wrestles with his role, he remains deeply tied to his past, haunted by memories of the life he once led. His armor, his reputation, the endless cycle of violence, all these things were his shields against vulnerability, against the pain of losing those he loved, the one he loved. But as he steps toward this possible future, he is forced to face a painful truth. The chains that once protected him now hold him back. To truly break free, Boba Fett must not only confront his past, but forgive it. Forgive himself for the years spent alone, for the choices that led him down a dark path. He must allow himself to see that there's strength and vulnerability in allowing others in embracing a role that once seemed inconceivable. This forgiveness, this release, is what could ultimately set him free. If Boba Fett becomes Mandalore, he would do so not as the ruthless bounty hunter of legend, but as a man who has transcended his past, a leader who has learned that true strength is not in isolation but in unity. And in this role, he would become more than a warrior, more than the son of Jango Fett. He would become the embodiment of survival, of resilience, of redemption. Boba's journey has shown us that even the hardest of hearts can change, that even the most solitary of souls can find purpose in community. For the Mandalorians, he could be the leader who offers them not only a future, but a new way of understanding what it means to be Mandalorian. His past, once a chain, now becomes a bridge to a future where the Mandalorians are united, stronger than ever, and led by a man who knows what it means to fight for something greater than himself. And so, as we look to the horizon, we see Boba Fett's story continuing to evolve, and perhaps one day leading him to Mandalore itself, where he may finally find the peace and purpose he has been searching for all his life. If Boba Fett does indeed find himself on the throne of Mandalore, it will be a testament to his journey of self-discovery, endurance, and transformation. It would mark the end of an era defined by isolation and the beginning of one where he would no longer be just a lone survivor, but a symbol of strength for an entire people. Through his vision with the Tuskens and his trials on Tatooine, he has learned that power is not in the weapon you wield, but in the connections you forge and the purpose you embrace. The Mandalorians have long been a fractured people, scattered across the galaxy, each group clinging to their own codes and beliefs. For too long, they have been defined by their divisions, whether it's in the ancient Mandalorian Crusaders, the pacifist New Mandalorians, or the Children of the Watch. Boba Fett, though not raised in any of these traditions, understands the importance of finding unity and diversity. He has always walked his own path, never bound to any creed or faction, and this independence may be exactly what's needed to forge a new Mandalorian legacy. And so imagine a future where Boba Fett, the son of Jango Fett, the man who survived the Sarlacc, stands as Mandalore. Under his leadership, the Mandalorians would not return to the cycle of conquest and war, but rather become a people who are united, resilient, and adaptive, guided not by the old divisions, but by a new vision for Mandalore. Boba's strength as a leader would not be in his armor, his skill in battle, or even his reputation. His true strength would lie in his ability to bring others together, to see beyond himself and build something lasting. The man who once sought only survival now seeks purpose. The bounty hunter who once lived in the shadows now steps into the light, carrying with him the lessons he has learned from his hardships and the resilience he has found throughout his journey. Now remember, or if you've never known, Boba Fett of Legends or the old Star Wars expanded universe did become Mandalore. He even had a child, a daughter. He even had a granddaughter who redeemed him and saved his life. This is all part of stories of the past, and it could be part of the story of the future. But if that's something you're interested in, let me know down in the comments. Or do you think it's completely impossible? Well, I mean, the chances are slim, but I still hold on to the belief. But let me know what you think down below. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to help it grow even beyond what we can imagine. Thank you for joining us on the Outer Rim. As always, may the Force be with you. And remember, sometimes the hardest journeys lead to the greatest destinations.